All right, guys, what's going on? Kind of having a weird night, I guess you want to call it. I mean, it's only 1:42 a.m., bro. I don't know what to tell y'all. Okay, I just feel like recording. I feel like yapping. That's pretty much it. So, we did have our balance idea dev talk today, or just uh balance idea, I guess we should just call it. And if I had to rate it, I want to say like a solid 5. I don't think that there were things that people wanted addressed, but at the same time, though, we were talking about character balances. Like, that's what it was, right? So we're actually going to get into the whole, transcripts of what was said by the devs and what was asked during the time of the little Discord stream. Again, if you are not in the Discord, you have to be in the Discord so you could put your input down. They said they plan on doing stuff like this basically every other week, right? So the devs will communicate more, will answer our questions more, yada yada yada. We get to put a lot of more input. That's what matters the most, okay? So that's the only thing that really needs to be said here. I want to read because I was in there and it was very, very funny. Very funny, very funny, very funny. Okay, check it, right? So the very first question: isn't the new character too strong at launch? So this was one of the questions that the devs or the GM decided to pick up on. And let's see what the dev actually had to say about that regarding new characters at launch. New characters are designed so that their roles and unique identifiers are clearly felt at the time of release. Because of this, we understand that they may feel strong in the early stages. After release, we continuously monitor metrics such as usage rate, win rate, and impact in specific situations. If any elements are determined to be excessively strong, performance adjustments are always considered. So basically, this is what they're saying, right? And this is what the fuck I've been saying throughout the whole time of being part of this damn community. Okay? It doesn't matter how strong the character is, right? At the end of the day, there's only gonna be so few fucking people who are gonna get it right. Just because people who spend X amount of money does not mean they have the edge whatsoever. You know what they got the edge in being when it comes to, the person who spent X amount of money? Bailout. That's as far as it gets. And then you realize the player is garbage, they ain't shit, da 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 da. That's what that means. So by them stating the fact, they're paying attention based off of their own analytics, their own statistics, their own metrics, whatever you want to call them. Let me put it like this, just so we could get a better phrase from it, right? You can talk about Giant G all day, right? Like, perfect example. Somebody can max out Giant G all day, whatever, right? You can say Giant G needs a nerf, okay? In a fair take, I'm pretty sure we can all agree Giant G does need a nerf, right? But here's the thing, though. It could be 100 of us saying that, but 100 of us isn't the mass version of the player base. That's what they're saying. And that's what the fuck I've been saying throughout this whole time. Your experience, of course, your experience matters. But here's the thing, you're literally that spec. You're literally like every other spec. You're literally the 100 spec that's being shown right now versus the other dozens of players that exist. That's why, right? So they can't go off of, if this said 100 players, yo, we got to get Giant G out of here. He got to get packed up. Versus they're not saying on the other side of type of players, or just players in general that aren't really paying attention to the gameplay or things that changes and just enjoying playing the game and all this other stuff. That's what they're talking about. That's literally what they're talking about. They're looking at the overall player based. So you could be somebody who's competent, know what the fuck they're doing, whatever. But at the end of the day, you have to look at it as their voice matters just as much. Their experience matters just as much, right? Especially with things like the ELO system being in place, people are properly being put in the spots that they're supposed to be put in. Your experience should have gotten better. If your experience gotten worse, not saying like nobody hasn't gotten like, as we always say, randoms and stuff like that. Not saying you haven't gotten that, right? But if you gotten that like 9 out of 10 times, trust me when I say you are probably the problem. Just saying, you are probably the problem. It's just how it goes. Because I can say the exact same thing. Like, yeah, I've had a couple of matches where you know I'm losing because I got two people who aren't doing their part. But that's not the mass majority of my experience to be like the elo system sucks ass. So that's where they're taking it from. They hear you, but they're not hearing the whole player base. They're not hearing the community push about certain things. But I think the Giant G situation is a little bit more drastic because that is somebody where, like, you are seeing him dominate in every fucking category, even shooting contested threes, bro. Even shooting, like, even having players shooting contested threes. But at the end of the day, they're saying it's just players. It's about how the players use the characters. It's about all this other shit, how they're gaining their win rate, losing their win rate, but all this stuff. That's what it amounts to. So at the end of the day, that's what I've been trying to tell y'all. But some of you niggas don't want to listen. I don't know why. I don't know why. But they confirmed my suspicion, my theory, or my known fact, whichever one you want to call it. They confirmed it. They like that's it. They just confirmed it. All right. Oh god, I wish I could continue to laugh at all of you, but I can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, a little dripped out right now. Okay, but we're back onto it. So next question: how is the issue regarding the character Jenna being handled? Regarding Jenna, Jenna has already undergone a first round of adjustments. However, we have since identified additional issues related to internal logic. The issue will be addressed as soon as possible and resolved through an upcoming patch. I think they're still talking about the jump shot pass glitch. I don't know. I haven't really touched Jenna since, so maybe somebody could let me know about that. But at the same time, though, um, yeah, I mean they're fixing Jenna. Now here's the bullshit that nobody really cared about. Has the issue where Walker's skill was not working been fixed? How does how is this a question that made it up as a conversation? Is that a fair thing to ask? How? But we'll read it. Regarding Walker, we confirmed an issue where Walker's P5 skill shot fake was not functioning properly. Oh, correctly. After identifying the cause, this issue was already fixed in the last week's patch. If it was already fixed, why did we include it in our talk? Oh my god. Okay. The effects of each freestyle level are unclear. Are there any plans to improve it? Regarding freestyle level effects, we have confirmed that the information provided about stat values and effect ranges tied to the freestyle level progression was insufficient. While players can currently see what effects are added or enhanced as level increase, it is difficult to. I'm assuming that I Joy. Come on, difficult. Let's just say C. It's difficult to see the exact numerical values applied in game. To address this, we plan to improve the UI and information display so that level by level effect increase can be clearly checked in game. This will allow players to make more informed and reasonable decisions regarding freestyle skill progression. And I also feel like this may happen as well. You know, just to cherry pick, I also feel like they may end up either nerfing or buffing freestyles if they end up doing it level by level. Because, for example, they're the only ones that know the how much defense resist a freestyle has, right? Like they're the only one, or block resist, whichever one that has both resists, right? But they're the only ones that know level by level what effect and how much defense resist does the freestyle have. So imagine they decided to next patch, next update, whatever, they decided to get into it and you see the defense resist like at 1%, right? But how people look at it, it's like 1% at level 1, Don't we think that's kind of a little too strong? Especially for people who have freestyles up to level 5, pretty much maxed. So what? People are getting 5 for you know what I mean? So just as an example, I feel like that's something where um they may end up adjusting. I feel like that could be a thing, even though that wasn't really mentioned because people are talking about the effects of the freestyles. So we will see what happens, but I think that's something that can happen. So, aren't the values for the shot impediment effect too high? Now, this one is something something that's yeah, let's just read it. Regarding shot imped values, fundamentally, shots attempted while the defender is in close proximity are designed to have a lower success rate, which we already know. Without this structure, blocking would become the only reliable defensive option, which could raise the overall difficulty of the game too high. The shot imped stat exists to compensate for this. However, under the current system, offensive players have limited, he must mean shooting guards. Offensive players have limited means to respond relative to the impact of shot imped, and the perceived influence of base shooting stats, such as 3-point and mid-range shooting, is too low. Going forward, we plan to allow base shooting stats such as 3-point and mid-range shooting to partially offset shot imped effects. Additionally, we aim to reduce the excessive reliance on ability cards, ensuring that character-based stat growth and player build choices have a clear impact on gameplay outcomes. Through this, attackers will be able to respond to defensive setups through character development and playstyle choices, leading to a healthier balance between offense and defense. So, what they were basically saying is that, especially during the time of the chat that we were having, they understand that people are saying imped is too strong, right? But here's the thing: note they also brought up metrics again. They also brought that up as well, and when they done that, they were basically saying for people who just suck. Let's put it as it is, all right? Like we can't sugarcoat this one. For people who don't play defense or just suck at defense in general, right? People who don't get better, um that's where the imped basically values, right? But imagine a good player or somebody who is competent or solid or whatever using imped right alongside just knowing how to play the game. That's where it is. And I'm not saying for the people who don't know how to play defense, don't know how to play the game, because obviously you see people who don't play defense but can somehow take a goddamn shot, right? So 2 and 2 comes together, right, and make 4. But the way it was being phrased, right, for offensive players have limited means to respond to relative to the impact of a shot pad, it just sounds like you're saying like, yeah, we just got some players who are slow. Yeah, we just got some players that are slow. They suck on defense, but somehow they can be okay on offense. Like what? What? God damn. In my own fair take, I don't. Okay, so when they brought up the metrics again, they're not seeing imped being effective all across the board, meaning from new players, casuals, the elo system for the X amount of players and all this other stuff we have to build up or end up losing it all, right? They're only seeing it in effects of certain parties. So that's why, again, their metrics, their statistics, what they're seeing, all this stuff, how it's actually taking effect. That's why they won't nerf imped. As I said before, you could have 100 people who say imped got to be nerfed, just tick down the percentage just a bit, make it, less accessible, whatever, improve offense a bit more for offensive characters, whatever, right? But that's not the mass majority of players. That's the problem. So even though you have people who wants to see these tweaks, it's not everybody saying or talking about these tweaks. That's the problem. So it's not the devs thing, because the devs are just paying attention to what we're doing from the best they can. And you could think it's like they must be doing some weird shit. Yeah, you could probably say that too. But from the way they're making it sound, it's it it's just a player thing. Again, like it's just a player thing. So when it comes to characters at launch being so overpowered and shit like that, you think any new player or casual or just somebody who's probably playing with friends or some shit like that, or who's just getting on the game just to get on the game because they feel like playing, a certain type of style, you think any one of the, like let's be real, you think any, especially a free to play player, you think anyone cares? Well, maybe less on the free to play cares, but like you think on those sides we know there's dozens and dozens of players like that who actually do exist. You think they actually care about the certain things that are going on? You just have some people in any type of community where they just don't care and they just enjoy the game. And that's the, I can't be mad at that. It would be nice to have more and more players get involved, become knowledgeable about certain things, having input about certain things, as long as it ain't stupid. But just these things happening, it would be awesome to just see more and more people gravitate towards that. But at the same time, though, Joy City is not going to budge if there's no real voice there. 100 people ain't enough. 100 people is not enough. So that's pretty much why Imped is not going to get nerfed. But offensively, for some characters are. Which I don't think that's a really good idea. I said this before. Buffing shooting guards just don't really matter. I mean, it's a nice touch if you're buffing the steal, buffing some form of block. That's okay. Can't be mad at that, right? But at the same time, though, other positions are getting pushed to the limit with how these characters are dropping for them. Shooting guard's the only one that's not getting shown any real love. Right? So it doesn't really matter if Fred gets a P6, P7. Carolina with Manual Block don't really matter. I mean, people had their fun, but that's over with. It's still Ox, it's still some form of Yuna, and it's still some form of Ren. That's about it. So I mean, like, I don't really know what else to say. Like, yeah, it may suck, but if they can really counter impediment the way they said they can do it, then I think we'll be in an okay spot, because it balances it out from like, okay, you do have some people who run impediment, and you do have some people on the other side where offense is being catered really well, and that's where the impact should really come from, right? We got all this defense, okay, we got all of it. All right, look, the way the bigs are switching up, the way Nathan's in rotation with Lou and Jack, Kaji and Janessa, included with Clara, right? Murdoch, Fox is a little bit there in a sense. Giant G, right? Like the way things are, right? Like all those characters, all that defense, it is time for offense to get pushed forward, but not for those said characters, right? For the characters where it matters the most. So, Cyanna's Earthquake ability seemed to have no counterplay. Ah, yes, I love this one. I was laughing so hard. When they was talking about this. Watch this. Are there plans to adjust it? Cyanna's Earthquake ability is fundamentally to design so that its activation rate depends on the difference in physical contact, body check, stats between Cyanna and the opposing character. Drop a like and subscribe, because Leslie's always right. Crazy. Wow. So, talking about there's no counterplay, you're just not knowledgeable. So, that's basically what Joy City just said. Congrats, Jay. You're a dumbass. Well. Insane. To address this, we plan to adjust the system so that when the opponent's physical contact stat is similar to or higher than Cyanna's, the activation rate of Earthquake is more noticeably reduced. So basically what they're saying is literally what they're talking about in the first sentence. Have the same amount of fucking balance and you be straight. It would less likely happen. Is that hard? They probably won't even adjust this because they just told you the answer. So who knows? This will introduce clearer risk reward decisions for cyan players while also allowing opponents to respond through physical context stat investment. We are also continuing to review, evaluate the abilities range related aspects. So from this part, they were talking about like this end part right here. Hold on, can I zoom in? Here we go. So from this part right here, we also continue to review, evaluate the abilities range aspects. They're basically saying that, you know, how far it goes, and it doesn't like really go that far. It has range. We can all admit that, but it doesn't have like the range where it's like, you know, you have two people close to the rim and the other one's just on the other side getting away from three and they're stunned as well, right? Like not that type of range. So we'll kind of see what happens, right? But I don't think they're gonna end up changing this. To be fair with you, I think for what it's worth, this right here, they just told you the answer, and they basically saying stop bitching. Like that's just how I'm taking it. Oh, you play like there's no counterplay when they literally just told you the answer to counter it. The only thing they got to do is just adjust the fact of your own stats. That's it. That's it. That's it. So the fact that they have to adjust it based off your stats, do you honestly think that it's really gonna matter? Do you? What? Huh? God? Are you here? Insane. Doesn't the Shanghai dribble need okay, so this one is stupid, and we were all trying to figure out how did this even make it into the talk. Regarding the Shamgar dribble, characters who possess the Shamgar dribble generally have strong offensive indicators. He's talking about Chloe and Ayla. But when looking at win rates, they rank in the mid to low tiers. So basically what they're saying is Chloe and Ayla are mid to low tiers, which is something people already knew about anyway. That said, we agreed that the repeated usage should carry more cost. No, this indicates that while the skill itself is powerful, it is not at the level that destroys the overall meta. So they know about the meta and they know about Shamgod, and they're saying like this is mid to low tiers. Like Shamgod ain't it as it was on release, is what they're saying, right? We agreed that repeated usage should carry more cost. We plan to slightly increase stamina consumption, limiting excessive repetition without removing the skill's identity. I mean, that's fine. But again, Shamgod is fine where they're at. Like it's okay where it's at. If you just like somebody says there's no counterplay with signing a stun. There is counter that, like, come on, bro. Like Shamgod is pretty old to the point you should already know what you should be doing. Have enough normal moving speed and you play sides. And you're able to predict and your prediction is a higher chance to figure out which side they're gonna go, and you could potentially bump them or get a loose ball. I mean, come on, bro. Come on, man. We act like we got brains, dude. Like what? Like people were mad that this question got in there. So whoever did that, trust us, we hate you. Trust us, we hate you. Oh God, bro, like this made it in and Walker made it in? That's insane. Will Jason's unblockable alley-oop dunk be adjusted? Regarding Jason's unblockable alley-oop dunk, the issue has been acknowledged from a balanced perspective and patch for Jason is planned. Okay, cool. Rather than removing the alley-oop dunk entirely, we are currently working on improvements by adjusting block timing and hit detections windows. Yeah, I mean, that's all you had to do, right? I mean, I ain't really too much care about Jason's dunk. You know what I mean? Like, if that was the only thing that would have him on the court, that's fine. But I would assume so. Once this nerf happens, everybody will be happy, right? So, I mean, kudos to people who is annoyed by Jason's alley oop. But at the same time, though, I mean, the thing is, though, I was talking to the sweats and the good players and stuff like that, right? Like, even they're mad about like Jason's alley oop and floater. But you know what I told them? I said you shouldn't be mad about anything when you guys have your own way of playing to be consistent. And then regardless if something's being thrown at you, you're still running those exact same plays to be able to stay consistent and to be able to win. That's why. So even if somebody's running some cheese, that doesn't mean you're going to get doesn't mean you should get, disgruntled based off of you seeing the running cheese. That just means you got to be able to get a stop. You got to be able to get a bump. You got to be able to potentially get a steal at some point, right? I mean, a lot of things. You know what I mean? So I don't too much care about the whole buff of floater and the alley oop. You know what I mean? If that's another playstyle that could be added on, especially with the way gameplay is now, that's insane. You know what I mean? Like, why are we nerfing something that people aren't really going to use, bro? Like, only people with teams or even duos are going to do it, right? And ask yourself this: if you were to play 10 matches right now, how many times within those 10 matches are you going to see floater abuse or alley oop dunks? Ask yourself that. I think that's a fair question to ask. Because I never complained about this shit. All right. I lost to it before. But at the same time, I also lost because there was a whole like we weren't looking for the consistent way of scoring. You know what I mean? So while they were gaining up, we were staying mid to low end of the bottom of the barrel. Like that's what was happening, right? But there's been times when people were running alley oops, but they never won. So at it's it's still an RNG thing, but it's still a player thing at the end of the day. It's still you wanting to win at the end of the day. So that's the mindset people need to come in. Like I think again, I don't have a problem with floater or shamga. I mean, a floater and alley oop dunk, especially with the way the gameplay is now. Why not give other players grace because they don't want to run certain things that other players run? And that's something that I've always preached on as well. You don't gotta run the exact same shit everybody else run, because you don't know if you waste time building that said character is gonna work out for you within the first 3 months. You don't know that. You don't know by the time you build that character about to get nerfed. You don't know by the time you build that character about to get below in the tier list because they're ass because a brand new character came in and make them look like garbage. You don't know. You would never know. So play the characters that you want to play, but at the same time, as I always say, be sure to upgrade at some point. When you realize you are ready, when you played enough matches, when you've done the things that you want to do, and you want to get into the next steps of a better looking character, that's how you should be playing the game. You should never just jump from a fucking character and think that you're just gonna dominate. And even if you spend time on that character, that means you're gonna be consistent. No, 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 no. It already has to be with you day one. You know what I mean? Like when you get the feel for the character, you probably spend some hours on it, like a day or two, and then you kind of understand what you want to do. You kind of understand the type of build that you want to go for. You kind of understand what P buffs you have to change, right? Especially if you're going to main that character. So that's how people should be going at it, right? Like it's not rocket science, dude. It really isn't. How do you currently view the overall balance direction between offense and defense? Regarding overall offense and defense balance, as player skill levels increase, we're observing a trend where defense becomes more advantageous. What? Become more. I can't talk. I'm sorry. Become more advantageous. Sorry. And we are closely monitoring this to ensure it does not become excessive. It already has become excessive, though. The ban system doesn't help with that at all, because people's mind wander into picking a character they feel like if it's not on the floor we have a higher chance. But right, so if you say you ban Kaji, Janessa still exists, Jack still exists, Nathan still exists, Lou still exists, Giant G still exists, Fox still exists, Murdoch still exists, How still exists, Sienna still exists, um who else? Clara still exists, right? If you ban one of the other characters, those characters still exist. If you ban another character, those characters still exist. So that's why I said it before. The ban system is pretty much garbage because the way people were looking at it. That's why. The way people were looking at it. Now you see double Kaji bans, bro. Double Sienna bans. You see a Blair ban and a Sienna ban. I mean, it makes no sense to ban Blair if you're not gonna big, but that's for another story. Trust me, that video will come because I got a lot of shit to say to some of you niggas. I swear. Trust me when I say that. But at the end of the day, like it's already being abused. It's already being abused. It's already excessive. I mean, the tournament is a perfect example of that. You didn't see no, like, come on, man. Like, you didn't see no offensive characters. Like, you saw how people were running pillar. You saw all that impediment on the floor. You saw all those blocks, all those missed shots were happening. That's the only way people were winning. Now, you could say in the fact, well, those were sweat players. Yes, those were sweat players, right? But I also do believe there, again, like, there is some form of balance to it, because there's a lot more freedom in the terms of other characters that you can run, especially when you're talking about the solo experience. Regardless if you're three stacking duo, let's be real, you're on the game by yourself 90% of the time, all right? So don't even lie, okay? But they're taking in other factors versus the main people who are going to run defense over and over and over and over again, run pillar over and over and over and over again, all that imped over and over again. So that's how they're looking at it. Again, 100 players said this about this and that about that, but those 100 players is not the mass majority of other players, right? Like, you even had other players who didn't really even talk about imped. They were talking about buffing Deacon and Lee and Noah and shit. Like, see, like, that's the, like, that, like, right there. That pretty much proves my point into what I was saying. Joy City is not listening to these X amount of players. They're looking at the overall state. And the overall state says that we are not part of that plan. Okay, so you gotta understand that. Okay, and if you don't understand that, well, let me tell you right now, just quit the game, live your life, whatever. Okay. Um, sorry. The shooting guard defensive stat buff applied in the previous patch prior to the shooting interference adjustments discussed above was made with the same goal of maintaining balance between offense and defense. We will continue to implement updates that consider both sides comprehensively. Again, I just think just drop a busted character for shooting guards. Leave it at that. Leave it at that, bro. That's it. That's all you got to do. So, regarding no, yeah, regarding old character remakes or reworks, however you want to call it, this is the last thing that they talked about. We have confirmed a significant amount of feedback requesting remakes of older characters. We are currently in the process of selecting remake candidates among characters that were released a long time ago. Once preparations are complete, these remake characters will be released sequentially in the near future. Now, this is a dumbass W. A huge fucking W. You know how many characters that we can pick that deserve the buffs? That, like, really deserve them? Now, this was something I did talk about, that I did bring up in the terms of, where is it? I'm pretty sure it's this form, right? This is the thing I was talking about right here. Let me see if I can find it. Not buffing and nerfing. Here we go. P6 and P7 skill trees should have better quality and balance, right? So I was talking about this right here. If you release dominant characters, have the P6, P7 be balanced or less, knowing of or less of knowing that the character is dominant. If you have character, if the character is balanced, allow the P6, P7 to be balanced or add a bit more in support of the value. If the character is pretty weak with some flaws but usable, let's improve the idea with the P6, P7 and potentially adding something that could be missed. And then obviously if the character has potential but is being outshined or outclassed, let's give more overall for the P6, P7 because said characters could exceed expectations as if they were premium characters, right? So that's where my idea was also coming in towards, because of course people talking about the reworks and remakes of older characters, right? Even I want to see that. Like, I want to see one of Cindy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see one of that character, right? But we just don't know how it's gonna look, and it can be scary to kind of see what they may end up doing to a character like Cindy, or what they may end up doing to a character like Lulu, right? Like you like, but the problem is though, the only thing that's like itching in the back of my mind. Sorry, I had to adjust my mic. The only thing that's itching in the back of my mind, right? Even though they're talking about remaking characters or just like reworking them, the older characters, that must mean they're going they're going to follow characters that are pretty shit. Characters that are just bad, right? But I don't think that also leaves out the idea they can't adjust some characters who still have the potential to like really be up there, right? Amanda, Jesse, who at point guard? You know, you could give Pedro a boost because Pedro ain't really it with how things are. You know, you could say one for Helena if you feel some type of way about her. You know, you could say one for Fred. You know, potentially before his P6 P7 or even on his P6 P7. That would probably make him 2 times better, right? Like day one on his launch for his P6 P7 plus a rework in some form. I think that could work out. You know, again, Lulu. Who else? Joey, maybe. Maybe Joey. Who knows? Right? Joey already got his P6, P7. Just need a rework, maybe. But I don't see what you could really add to Joey, bro. Probably give that man a shooting touch or some shit. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Right? But just remaking older characters could matter a lot. Um, Obviously, just talking about the free to play characters. I don't think they're really talking about the premium ones because you know like their P6 P7 does push them to that effect of like, oh, did they stay the same? Did they improve? Or you know, are they still garbage? Right. So I think that's something they're probably looking at with like a closed eye. And I think that's pretty fair. I don't think like when you're talking about like a character like Max or Deacon or some shit like that, right? Like they've had their time. And I think that's probably the best situation to look at it if we're talking about remaking older characters, right? Because especially when you have to emphasize by them saying older characters, okay? You have to emphasize that. Who are the older characters? The older characters in game are literally the faces of 3on3 Freestyle. So that's all the free to play characters. Evenly. But we'll kind of see what happens with that. Because if anything, they could make the like the reworks, they could make it the same way how we look at P6 P7, right? Where the P6 P7 improves the character in some form or it doesn't matter at all. So again, you got to kind of be wary and cautious about that. But that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. I think we yapped on long enough. Um, we'll see what happens within the next talk. I wonder what the next conversation is going to be, and hopefully it'll be more of like, you know, allowing, you know, your players being hands on of asking a question other than typing it in. I think that would matter the most, just for a bit of more interaction. I think that's where, you know, we can be set up upon. But let me know what you guys think. Sub to the channel, like the video as usual. Lush was right. Try to tell y'all, and we out.